Hey, good morning. morning. How's it going, guys?
Not bad. Is Chris here?
Chris has left the building.
That's okay. I was saying earlier when I was talking to him in the pre-show that the beginning of the show could just be a fight between you and I to see who got higher on the Spotify Wrapped in terms of Chapel Roan.
Ooh, last year I had you beat. This year it was Sleep Token for me. But also my music podcast completely skews my Spotify listening because when people bring on an album, I'm listening to it 20 times or so to study it. And, that way I'm able to make comments and stuff on it. So the majority of my top artists on Spotify have all been albums that people have brought on to the podcast. So for better or worse, my Spotify Wrapped is almost completely useless for personal tastes, but Sleep Token did manage to make it up number one. So
I am in the top 0.1% of her fans. I listened for 2,321 minutes.
Well, that's.
Do you get a prize for that?
Shush, Chris. I can just enjoy it. There's no prize. Okay. It's just a little message from Chapel, but there's the self-satisfaction. Now, let me tell you, though, watching the people who were trying to figure out who is Taylor Swift's number one fan and looking at the amount of hours, there was 230 some, I don't even remember, it was some stupid amount of hours. And they're I don't know that you can listen to that much in 1 year, but whatever, she did. So I think her name is M or something like that. Anyway, it was really funny because they were all trying to figure out who it was.
I think that's multiple streams playing at the same time.
No, it's sleeping with her music on.
Oh, that's weird.
I mean, I've hit over 100,000 minutes listened a couple times, but I'm right around that 20 to 30,000, which I think that's still a respectable amount of time listening. But I also have other. Jesus, my cat just up on my bed.
Your cat's being a cat?
Yeah. Doesn't count into the final time or the YouTube time and all the times listening to CJ's podcast, or the Geekcast, none of that's on Spotify Wrapped. So
it should be, unless you're not listening to the podcast through Spotify.
That's true. Yeah.
You're one of my 4 listeners.
Hey, it's important, man. Sorry, I'm under the weather. My oldest brought home some sickness from school, so my wife and
send him back.
Yeah.
Yeah, return to sender.
That's right.
Well, we let's say we have to mention some of the sports talks here because my Avalanche are the best team in the NHL right now. So Amanda doesn't want to hear any of that.
No, I don't.
CJ, do you go to any Blue Jacket games?
Do I go into any what?
Did you even know that? Or wait, you're Iowa, not Ohio. Sorry. Yeah, Iowa doesn't have any hockey team.
Iowa has we get excited about minor league sports. We have stadiums that are tricked out for nobody.
Hey, the Hawkeyes golf facility is pretty impressive.
Their stadium is pretty impressive.
Yeah. I think you might have a USHL or AHL team. Those are pretty fun. But,
yeah. We have a couple. Right, actually, we have 2 of those.
We have in Sioux Falls. We have a tier 1 junior hockey league, and I love going to there. They actually had corgi races last week. So in the intermission, I'll send you videos. Join our Discord, MSP Community Live, if you want to see them. But they had corgis line up 8 of them, 3 different waves of them on the goal line, and then they had to race to center ice, and it was amazing. So they did it until there was one corgi winner. They do it for wiener dogs too, but this was the first year they did corgis. It was amazing. I have an amazing sticker too that I'll share. So if you want to see all of that, and join the MSP Community Live Discord to see hockey related things. That's how we do it. But
and then I can Uncle Jordan.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get into our story here before Amanda gives me more glares talking about hockey. So, in our first story, state of affairs. Is it me or is IT literally the worst industry to be in right now? Every single thing is breaking overnight, one fire to the next. Provider side outages, Windows wreaking havoc. What is going on? Is anybody else experiencing specialized verticals? Guys, we've all been in IT. I'm going to say for at least, I mean, I've got almost 20 years. I think you guys have that, if not more. How many times have we heard this?
I just think this is like a reflection of the time of year. Like it always feels heavier when you're already trying to get like stuff done and it's we crunch time. Like no, like the worst time to have anything go wrong in any company is on the day where you do payroll, right? Like
Sure.
like this is just the time of year. Now that being said, do I think that the cloud outages that happened in the last little bit have contributed to this feeling? Probably.
I mean, Cloudflare was out this morning.
Yeah.
For
Like more frequent than I think people thought it would be.
Yeah, but a couple of minutes in our world is an eternity to clients.
Yeah,
that's true.
That's at least a dozen tickets from the same client, right? Like, I mean, I can't do something, and it's the world has come to an end. I think the challenge that we've seen over the years is not as in our face as it is today. So, like, pick a firewall vendor. If they have a vulnerability or it's being exploited in the wild, it's causing a critical whatever. It didn't used to be that in your face because we didn't have that level of sophisticated tools to track it. I think that's a big difference today from before.
Well,
I think it's
clearly this
the
person's
reliance
never had to work on-prem exchange servers.
Yeah, yeah. The internet might be down, but I can still prep my email. Yeah.
But that was one-to-one. These issues now affect everybody at the same time, so it creates that like shared pain, which then makes it feel bigger, even though it actually is bigger, right? Like, one SharePoint server goes down, it could be 1,000 endpoint customer, sure, but like one Cloudflare outage, how many people does that affect? Like, it all depends on where it hits, obviously, but I'm really surprised, to be honest with you, and I don't know enough, so perhaps you guys can weigh in on that. But it does feel like the redundancy I would have expected for them to have in cloud is not what I would have thought it would have been, considering how much is now reliant on it.
Sure.
I don't know. I feel, and not as hands-on these days in the technical role, but like I feel it's troubleshooting's gotten quite a bit easier. I mean, instead of spending hours troubleshooting some weird Windows problem, you just reformat it. I mean, you can re-image computers very, very quickly. When it comes to, I apparently made Amanda so mad that she left us.
No, just 1 second. 1 second, I'm here.
She had a cat disaster.
Yeah. There's there are differences in troubleshooting for sure, but Exchange Online is quite a bit easier than Exchange on-prem in my opinion.
Sure.
Entra ID versus Active Directory. I mean, it's a different skill set, different things to do and learn, but I feel it's, as far as like uptime, reliability, and ease of troubleshooting, it's gotten better over my years of experience. And I could also be wrong because I'm not in the trenches anymore, but
is it better when it's in the control of someone else? Is like, that's the thing, right? Like, It's not like you're actually troubleshooting what's going on at Cloudflare. You're waiting for them to do it. So you kind of have to hope that they're, you're in the middle of that customer kind of going, what the hell is going on? And having actually no control over what that looks like, right? So like, I don't even know if I want to call it troubleshooting. Is that bad? I don't know.
It's being less of a, I mean, you obviously have to have the technical expertise and have tech solutions, but as we've continually said, if you want to grow and scale, it is more about business operations than it is, the tech part of it. And I think it's because of how much tech has evolved. Getting into like, is IT the worst industry? I mean, Amanda, you were in the wedding industry. I was industry. I don't know, CJ, if you've been in tech forever, but like I would rather be here than the restaurant industry right now.
Rather be here than the wedding industry.
I was in construction management before this.
I think everything has its hard, right? We just choose the hard based on how your brain works.
That's true, because people could be in the restaurant that like, as a bartender in the restaurant, you get the people that come in that from all walks of life that just hate their job and they're like, man, I wish I could do that. And there are some days where like, man, I wish I could just, go back and just put me as a line cook or a kitchen manager for like a couple shifts, but
Right.
I'm happy with where I'm at right now, regardless of the stressors. But to that person posting, I mean, it's I think it's something that's going to come up and get posted. Again, it's something that you're going to hear over and over again. And I think to Amanda's point, like, depends on the time of the year.
Josh, if you think about what I said, like, think about it this way. We don't know anything about the person who posted it, but and I know this because I have technicians that run the gamut of age, right? If I have different experience, it can makes things comparatively better or worse, right? If I was a person who was used to going out on site and fixing the Exchange server, yeah, you might hate Exchange, but also you knew what you were doing and you knew how to fix it. Working in an environment where things break and you have no control, like that specific technician mindset would really struggle. Even if it's easier and you have less on sites and all those things, in the moment when something breaks, if you have that mindset of, I just want to fix, like that's incredibly difficult to not have that control, right?
Yep.
It's like the sophistication of change management, right? Like if you are dialed in on process and procedures and a change happens and you know what application it was tied to, like I think that's one of the big challenges that we face today is even if a client doesn't have their own IT, they have shadow IT. They all do. They all are adding applications into their line of business because it's free or convenient, or this is what I used at my last job. Then something breaks, and as the MSP, you're responsible for fixing the unknown. And they can't articulate what it is because, nope, I didn't make any changes.
Yep. Well, keep that in mind as we're going to discuss shadow IT later, but that is not our next story. We'll bury the lead a bit. Our next story is about marketing. So this one is titled the Tech Tribe Marketing Pack, but I don't want to focus on just the Tech Tribe. So this person got the monthly marketing pack from Tech Tribe, and he's curious how others are using it. If we post the same materials as others, does it hurt SEO rankings? What do you typically use to engage? Do you think resources like MSP Camp, MSP are better than the Tech Tribe? What's a better way to handle these marketing materials? So throwing Tech Tribe out of it, you get marketing templates and you're just going to post them. Does that hurt or help? Does it do anything? I mean, how are we supposed to market? We're an MSP, right? Like there's a tool for everything and you choose the tool that you want and you click the button and it goes. It's the same. Right?
So like if we just want a code, we should just put it in a chat GPT and say, here's the code and take the code that it gives us and just use that without checking or using critical thinking. No, Josh, no. The answer on that is the same as everything. You have to use your own discernment. You have to bring your own business knowledge to it. Because if everybody could do it, then everybody would do it. And it would just be like, noise in the universe. All these templates, and I say that as a member of the Tech Tribe, as a company that also uses technology marketing toolkit, like we use multiple things, we cross-reference, and then we add our own into it as well to make the language and the verbiage what we would like. They're templates. Templates are not meant to be put. Otherwise, every website would say lorem ipsum dolorum instead of what we actually want to put on it.
Right. But I think there's a little bit of ambiguity in the question, right? Like we're talking about a kit and a marketing kit that has lots of different things in it. But when someone talks about like to post something verbatim as is, if we're talking about articles or like curated content, that's not necessarily a bad thing. You have a set of followers and the quality of the content that you give them, if your bandwidth is limited on pulling content in, that's not necessarily bad to repost without maybe adding your own flavor to it. But to your point, Amanda, I don't think you can just do that anymore without checking, is this a legitimate article? Like, how many times do we put our name on something without checking it? At some point, it will bite you, and it may bite hard enough that it's not easy to recover from.
Or I don't know, that video that passed around of like all the different news places that were all part of the same syndicate that basically got sent the entire like jargon.
Yeah.
That was then used to create distrust, right? Like, do you want to be someone that is seen as, copying or plagiarizing? Because that's how people will see it if they look at that. You want to make sure it has your own flavor and it's in your own voice. You can use these things as starters, but they shouldn't be your like, just forward on, no problem.
Well, just go with that and go look at LinkedIn right now. And every time you see colons and slashes and little icons that you and I know we can't create by hand, that we don't have the memorized magic code for like throwing a rocket into the post.
The rocket.
It's
my
Windows
favorite one. That's
Windows X, and then you type in
right.
rocket. That's how you get the emoji.
Oh boy.
Or
what I have. So the other day, I asked my wife to take a look at what I was going to post, and she said, "Let me make it pretty." So she sends it back to me, and she sends the version that she created. And she's got a degree in English. That's what she went to school for. She was a teacher. Has been an editor for a newspaper. And I'm like, cool. So she's like, first one's the one I wrote. And she goes, and the second one is the one I had ChatGPT write. She's like, take your pick. I like both of them. So I immediately gravitated to the second one at first, looking at it and going, oh, wait, look at those little dashes. Woohoo. The hashes, I guess. And as I read the second one, I said, on what planet does anybody talk like that? Like, what am I, Aristotle? Like, this sounded like all kinds of like, I had my, chin in my hand and I had to really contemplate life before I posted, 8 words.
Easy. I write like I contemplate life in every single post, even LinkedIn posts. But
maybe that's where ChatGPT got it from.
No. My run-on sentences and poor grammar is part of the brand, so it is what it is.
Well, so you mentioned that last part, brand, and I think that's what's important. That's what makes you stand out more, is building that. So, quick shout out to our buddy Eric Bowles, who just launched Vosa. If you're really, looking at marketing, I cannot recommend that enough. And I believe he posted in here as well. So anyone out there, I highly recommend going to check out Vosa, because that is the whole like prospect is behind this, is the personal brand and building that trust and what brand is and what it isn't in the content. And I think that's going to, way more than any sort of marketing template out there, of building the personalization and again, having that trust and that face that people can interact with. I mean, what, like us three right now, without even trying to or realizing we're doing it, do have an individual personal brand, and it does lead to our respective companies for the better. And that's where it's like, that's how you stand out above the templates.
Right.
It's got to be intentional, in my opinion. I think that's why I say that taking a copy and paste is not the way to go about it. You should be intentional with the changes that you make. You should include words that are synonymous with the things that you have in your core values. You need to make sure that you're tailoring it. And I know that a lot of people will say that like branding is only something that large companies do, but that's true if you were just trying to do product placement or whatever. Like, we're not on the level to do that. But like when you talk about how you show up and how, let's look at my background. It's very clear that I'm involved with MSP Geek. I've got a goose in the background, right? Like, there's just different things that I make a part of my spaces where I usually, not just the soap for anyone who's watching that one. But like, it's because it's, part of who I am. I'm not always going to be the most polished person, because I'm not polished in most of my presentations, because I do like to come off as raw and authentic, because that's who I am, right? Like, I don't know how to be anything else, and that's important to me. But you have to decide, every business has to decide what's important to them and make sure that it reflects that. And the person making a template doesn't know what that answer is for you.
Yep. Absolutely. All right, well, let's go ahead and I want to touch base on the next one, because this is a pretty big passion of mine here. Employees or management won't do SAT, which is Security Awareness Training. Does anyone want to offer what they do for employees or management that won't do SAT? I have one in particular that's the director of ops for the company, and she absolutely refuses to finish Security Awareness Training. Thought about offering a small discount for companies, but in my mind, this is rewarding bad behavior. Would charging a penalty per seat that is not completed be a bad idea? Most of our customers get their employees to finish it. No problems, no questions asked, as they see a value instead of obligation. But we have about 3 customers that just refuse. And you can guess these are the ones that are most security issues with. Hate to lose a customer, but I don't want the liability anymore. So, Amanda, are you going to charge more to the clients who won't do their training?
Absolutely not.
CJ, how about you?
It's fair on this podcast, right?
Remember, we're a trade association. We don't charge more for anything.
That's true. That's true.
Here's my. I have a problem with the entire statement. security awareness training is a load of crap, in my humble opinion. And the reason being is we've created something and turned it into a monster, which is check this box on this date every year and be resilient in the face of cybersecurity. And the part that's not being articulated for most of these is it's skills and awareness training, not just security awareness training. So are your employees being trained to do the job you hired them for? Nope. So how are you going to go from that to getting them to do security awareness training when you aren't even growing your staff, period?
Yep. I mean, just like we talked about with the templates, security awareness training isn't just, hey, here's the videos, go do them. Like it's not how you build that culture of continuous improvement in cybersecurity. I mean, that's
And why are
part
you
of it.
doing it?
Yeah.
I don't think.
Amanda, you wanted to.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, CJ. I want to hear what you were going to say.
I was just going to say, I've read a lot of research on specifically phishing simulations. And one of the things that research has come back with is that those that have done consistent phishing simulation training are just as likely, if not more so, to click on a real attack than someone who's never been trained on it at all. And so that is not to say that phishing simulation training is bad, or that training around how to be more conscious about the things that are happening in our ecosystem are bad, but we're not being intentional about managing training for our staff. We're allowing tools, to your point, templates, to just be, we want them to go through these trainings, check all the boxes and hit send. So maybe that works on day one, maybe. But my problem is that if we're not creating content that allows the maturity of the employee to grow with the training versus repeating the same training over and over again, we're never going to be resilient against the threat actors.
So I understand what you're saying. I might share the opinion, but in a different way. I think a lot of this goes down to the ethos of the company. Obviously, when we say skills and awareness training, like if they don't have a proper way to train their people or encourage, ongoing betterment, then it is rare that we see the traction that we would hope with security awareness training, right? And I don't mean just in the sense of doing it, but also in the sense of it being successful to stop an attack. But I have seen many times where people have done the training, but then it's at the places where they're already doing huddles for everything in their own current practices. They have a general sense of an place of employment where people are trying to better their overall place. I'm not forming words properly, but you know what I'm trying to say. In this case here, for this particular person's poster, like, to me, I think sometimes I get a little bit frustrated. I think there's an elitism that comes with this, and I'm going to say something that's going to contradict that in a second. Ideally, every client would do exactly what we would want to, right? But for whatever reason, they don't, right? And I'm sorry, but if they have a security incident and we're aware they have a security incident, we should also be looking at the bill that we're charging them for it, right? Like, we're not doing a good charity work here. Like, we're going to have to deal with these things for somebody being stupid or somebody doing something they shouldn't have. And unfortunately, it's just part of it. Now, if they're really a terrible client to work with and you really think that they don't have any security hygiene, then I wouldn't be billing them extra. I would be putting, hey, I want an indemnification against liability. I want you to understand what you're doing to put yourself at risk. And you're going to go to the bottom of the list so that the next time I replace a client with somebody else, I'm going to let you go, right? Like, I think there's this preference for wanting the perfect client or the perfect ideal. And I think that everybody needs support in some shape or form. And then we have to be having a response to either get people to the right place eventually, the same way as we do with everything in security and layers, and then exit them if they don't. But it can't be just a hard no, you're done, or you have to pay extra. That just, I don't know, that kind of rubs me the wrong way when people get like that.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, again, what else are you doing to build the cyber awareness culture rather than just, hey, we offer this training, go do it? We use cyber awareness training. We have, I think the training that's provided by our vendor is amazing. It's some of the best out there, but we can't just blindly say, hey, now you guys have it. I mean, building out, one of the things that I do is an annual training when a client does an all staff, and I do a cybersecurity basics presentation, and it's all about how to protect your personal like any like your personal, and then how that can affect your business, and just having that, like removing the fear and showing how you report things, that we're here to help, we're not here to judge. Even if you fail one of these phishing tests, great, it's a learning experience. And building, working with the security officer at that client to start building those, because even if they don't take the training, then they at least know what to watch out for, or like, I'm not going to be punished for this, and how I can report those things. And then, if they're interested and they want to be aware of that, perfect. We have all of this amazing training that you're able to take advantage of. Because the other thing with it too is, I mean, you take the, like, how many are engaged with that training, right? They just throw it up on one of their 3 monitors and they go through it, or they read the transcript, or multitasking, or like, oh, they're going to do like 20 at once. Well, you can't, like, realistically, if you take 20 trainings in a row, you're not retaining any of that knowledge. I mean, you only have a limited amount of attention that you can dedicate to that. So if you're really trying to train your clients on being cyber aware, there's way more to it than just, here's our training, please watch it.
Agreed.
And why?
What's the why behind it? I mean,
well, the real funny part is, like, internally at Aavik, there's our support people. We have somebody who does phishing tests, and she likes to make them like extra clever. She like will show up on the like the all hands call, and she'll be like, I got like mischievous, but she lets her personality show about it. And actually, I find people are like looking out for how she got creative this time, and be like, you didn't get me, but like it almost gamifies it in a more personal way. I think it's what you bring to it, right? Like, people are paying attention, not just because they don't want to cost the company money, but also because she's now made it into a game, right? And that's like a completely organic way to do it. I don't know. It was kind of cool when I noticed that.
I want to see some failures.
Yeah.
Like, what happens when you fail? I don't want to, like, you only got 2 out of 5. Take the quiz again. Okay, I got 2 out of 5. Try again, right? I want to see, like, right. Like, give me a simulation that creates some level of response, because the payload has happened. I think that when you click on, when nothing happens outside of you get a score of pass or fail, yay, it's just like school.
Chris wants to see the whole burn.
No, that would be interesting. We get the notification that a client clicks it, and it's like, all right, we have to disable your account for 20 minutes. Like, look at the logs, go through this. Like, this is a realistic scenario of what would happen if you actually had clicked on one.
We need more of that.
Show off our response time and how we would react, and I kind of like that idea.
Lead into it by our game.
Yeah.
It would be a learning experience for both, right? So you have the impact that it has on the client and the employee. And if they're using you as the MSP, there should be an interaction that shows, hey, we weren't even participating in this exercise, only to discover, oops, we didn't respond to this exercise like we should have. We have a learning opportunity here too. No one's above this, right? Like, I'm like, we're getting rid of our firewall vendor. They had a vulnerability. Guess what? They all do.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the important part, is the CAPA part of it. And when I was running that workshop at IT Nation, or is that what it's called? Sorry, IT Nation Global. My cold stuck in my butt.
Connect Global.
IT Connect Global. One of the things that we talked about in one of the workshops is that CAPA. And those can happen. Yeah. I mean, any, like, the security training, any incident. I mean, just having that write-up of, like, timeline of events, if you know the root cause, what the corrective actions we did, and then going through, like, hey, how can we prevent this going forward? I mean, it doesn't take much to do those, and it'll make you look pretty dang good to the client. So it's, you
just created an interactive tabletop.
Mm-hmm.
Coming to a conference near you.
But I mean, that's really, like, again, that's a passion of mine, is just actually growing cyber culture. And there's so much more to it than just, here's your training videos. Like, it's a CAPA. Again, it's like the template. Yes, they're needed. I mean, you should be offering and doing cyber training videos, but it's not good enough to just, hey, here's the tool, have at it. You have to engage. All right. I'm done talking here. My voice needs a break. So let's go to the next story, and I'll have you guys start on that. All right. This is another fun one. How do you handle vendor evaluations when comparing multiple solutions for clients? Here's how other MSPs approach this. When a client needs a tool, like an RMM, a backup security stack, and you're comparing 4 to 5 options, what does your evaluation process look like? My current approach is I pull spec sheets and docs from each vendor. I manually extract key features into a spreadsheet. I try to normalize terminology, and it usually takes 4 to 6 hours to get a proper apples-to-apples comparison. The frustrating part is doing this repeatedly for different clients with slightly different needs, or redoing it when vendors update their offerings. Does anyone have a better system? Is there an easy button? Is there a template? Or is this the cost of doing proper due diligence?
I am so disturbed by this question.
Me too.
Can I just ask, like, could we bring this person on to understand what they mean by when a client needs an RMM? Like, I know Josh just disappeared. Probably he's like losing along right now.
I was debating disappearing too on this one.
Honestly, like, I actually talked about this in my newsletter. I think it was actually this week too. There is 2 silos in any MSP's stack. There is the software that the client doesn't really know about. It is the stuff that you use to do your role, your job, your whatever, and it makes you more efficient. And then there are the things that you tell them. It's like, one is like features, one is benefits, really. And it's the things that you tell them that, like, your EDR, the things that they're going to want to know about because maybe insurance will ask about it or whatever. The RMM does not belong on that list. The PSA does not belong on that list, and you should not be changing them based on the client. They should be the same every single time. MSPs only work when we standardize on stuff, and then we have very little flexibility so that your entire staff knows how all that works. You cannot expect people to understand 50 to 100 environments and 50 to 100 tool stacks. I literally could lose my mind at this question.
Let's be really nice. Let's be super nice on this one for just a second. 4 to 5 options? I mean, remember, if we were really doing an amazing job at sales, we might have 3 options, right? And one of them's the elephant, right? One is like, holy smokes, that's like 5x more expensive than the other 2. Like, we definitely don't want that one. And all of a sudden, now you're having a legitimate conversation from a sales perspective about picking A or B. And you might have 2 solutions in your stack. Now, to your point, on an RMM, you probably don't. But the thing that I find interesting,
for security purposes, but that's internally, that's not necessarily.
I was going to say, and we could probably have a whole episode on if we were talking about it has to be FedRAMP certified or those kind of things for a particular client. But then the second part of this gets into the thing that is kind of the premise of where we all started on some of the talking points with regards to threat actors. And if we are going to go and evaluate a vendor, what are the things that you have to have? Not how do I go and evaluate a vendor without a preconceived idea of what I need. And I would argue that most MSPs, you should be talking to your peers. You should be looking at things like CIS Top 18 or the Trustmark. What are the criteria that you're saying, like, the vendor has to have SSO, the vendor has to have MFA, and asking questions like, one is for product, one is for the vendor. Like, how does the vendor treat security? I would argue that the time spent 4 to 6 hours, you can probably get the security side of the questions a whole lot faster than you can get into trying to understand the 72 features that product XYZ might have that overlaps with 4 of the other products you're already using.
So let's assume good intent here. And I would say what we do internally is we have a process. It's a form that you fill out that basically does exactly what Chris is talking about, where, like, you look at the same criteria. So when you're comparing apples to apples, you're not going like, well, but not knowing what it is, you're just going on gut. You want to make sure that's comparable. But the reason why we also have a form you fill out is because in 2 years, when we decided to not go with that originally, and there's a different set of staff that want that thing back now, we need to know why we made the decision that we did at the time. To the conversation of, like, having to redo this and whatever, there should be a trigger, or there could be a trigger to re-look at a vendor, but it should only be once they've changed something that was a no for you before, right? They should automatically exclude them. So I think that this all goes back to change management, really. It's all a form of change management. And I will, like, be completely honest about this. In the early days of MSP land, a service manager would go, oh, I'm going to look at like 17 different things and I'm going to evaluate all of them. I'm going to sit in demo and take every free product I could from whoever was giving me whatever. And then we would just trust whatever service manager would tell us. As your MSP matures, it is not a case of micromanaging. It's asking for that history, that proof, that living legacy of why things got decided the way that they did.
Sure.
So that if we have to change our mind, we know why. Right. So I think that's an important part of it. And it also simplifies it going forward so that you don't have to restart all over again.
Yeah, I also think that this question with regards to current approach, I don't think there's anything in there that's wrong. I think where this gets interesting is when clients have slightly different needs. That's probably not a massive vendor evaluation process. It's A versus B of something that you probably support already. You may even have some clients that have both of those vendors products in their environment. I think about like backups. Those tend to be some of the easier ones to think about how client A only needs snapshots that are weekly or whatever it might be depending on their business. But then you have others where they need like those extended long-term RPO, RTO type stuff. Then they also want like the file-based backup for different reasons. They may be coming from two different vendors. So I think this is a question that lots of people ask. This is a question that lots of people and MSPs are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And I think that last part, better system, it's not a better system. It's more of a better process. I think that take advantage of tools like I like Microsoft Lists is a great one. So if you think about all the criteria that you can come up with through asset inventory and third-party service provider management, they give you the criteria from a security standpoint of what things you need to be tracking. If you use Microsoft Lists to do that like you would in a spreadsheet, every time you click to add a new vendor or to evaluate a new vendor, it pops up and it gives you the ability to create a Microsoft form, and you can put your required fields in. So then some of those fields that are in your values that you're tracking now become required fields. So if the vendor that you're going to evaluate doesn't meet that criteria, boom, it's flagged like, hey, we're not going to work with this vendor. It does not meet our minimum requirements.
Nope, 100%. All right. Well, thank you for letting me rest on that one. Let's go ahead and go to our next story. And this is what CJ had talked about. Got pulled into dealing with our shadow IT mess. And wow, we got way more random crap out there than anyone expected. Between unapproved SaaS tools, personal credit card cloud accounts, bunch of mystery VMs no one can explain. I'm trying to get a handle on what we actually have and what's talking to what before it blows up in our faces. I'm hoping that there's a tool that can auto-discover assets, apps across on-prem cloud, flag unknown systems, et cetera, et cetera. Is there any tool that can be used for this? So, as an MSP, not even talking to our clients, I mean, this is something that affects, there's tools for everything. There's people that are demoing tools, enterprise apps. This one person is like, hey, I need to download this and use this for this client. So how can we help with shadow IT in our own before even touching that for clients?
I mean, I'm a little bit biased. Working at Avik, I mean, it does all those things. Yeah. So like I read this and I think about it that way, but I also think about actually, and I'm gonna talk about it, but I'm not gonna talk about the product specifically, but I'll talk about the first time that shadow IT kind of came up on my radar. It was actually a presentation from one of my now colleagues, Steve, and he was at MSP GeekCon at the first year, and he was just kind of talking about it. And I think one of the ones that he had highlighted was Dropbox, right? And then really made it prevalent for me, his talk was that we had an employee in the MSP about a year after that had a Google Drive that they would consistently connect to. And I found out through having this person on a performance improvement plan and monitoring their systems that they were siphoning all of our IP and putting it out to something. Now, I think you can probably do that easily through many different forms. I'm not suggesting that, stopping this form of shadow IT would stop that altogether, but I do think we should make it harder, right? And I do think that we should be looking at it. I have an employee right now that I've had to tell them, like, they were creating documents in Google Workspace. And I was like, no, we are Office 365. You create here. in this place, because if something happens to you, this is how we get access. Like from a file perspective, it really became prevalent, like how messy that gets. And then anybody who's had to deal with Adobe in licensing for Adobe, oh my God, it is a nightmare. If Adobe listens to this, you are the worst at managing your licensing. And so like the products that can help with that is like very, very invaluable, because you spend hours like tracking that stuff down. And it's a risk for your business on the document side, but it's a risk also financially to have all these things out in the wind that you don't know about, that you can't control. And maybe you have duplicate licensing and whatnot. So yeah, I this is a mess, but it's a mess I don't think anybody necessarily anticipated before the prevalence of SaaS. And now it's like, how do we fix it now that the animal's out the gate, if that makes sense?
I think it's always existed. I did an audit for a large company. I think they had about 700 employees at the time. Just to evaluate, they were struggling with why OneDrive SharePoint content seemed to be very inconsistent as far as like when stuff showed up and when things became SharePoint master file kind of thing. We did an audit and we found that only 10% of content was actually being created in the Microsoft ecosystem. To your point, Dropbox, SugarSync. I forget, we had one really obscure one that was really popular. Then if you were using, this will tell you how old I'm in, if you're using like a Palm device or other non-internet based tools that you'd plug into your computer and it had a sync tool that went with it. I think the problem is the tools help solve blocking users from using tools that they're comfortable with in many cases. And we do the opposite of getting them buy into the why, because we just say you have to use this, not that. And it really, it's the pedagogy, I think is the word. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. It's like, what's the difference between Microsoft and Google? We could go down a huge rabbit hole on the differences between the two platforms and the way they approach content, or learning management systems versus the ability to display something in a classroom. They're very different things. When I went to the school system, I was exposed to what I thought was the dumbest thing ever. Why are they struggling with a PC and I need a Mac? And I'm like, at the end of the day, I want the employees to be productive with the tools. But if I'm expecting them to use one of those versus the other, and I'm not willing to train them on it, shadow IT's coming. And I'm supporting shadow IT. I chose not to invest in the training of those employees.
Oh, for sure. But I think you actually touched something else that's more prevalent than the training part. Even if you train people, their comfort always comes first, even in security, right? We do what we know, we do what we're comfortable with, we revert to our old patterns, and breaking those patterns and habits is hard. And
Sure.
I think you need the balance of the training as well as something to be able to kind of rein in it from getting it out of control.
That's fair, but I'll give you an example. You guys are familiar with Asana, the Canva task project management platform, SaaS based. It's there's lots of them out there. You can Monday, and there's other vendors that have that type model. I had a conversation the other day, and I said, well, why wouldn't you use Planner? They're like, Planner's not a project management system. I'm like, hold. Have you used Planner? Nope. Okay. So let me tell you a little bit about my experience with Planner. I use it, and here's how it works. So let's start with Canboard. You want Canboard? Here's Canboard. There's a lot of, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. How many vendor products in their roadmap that has gone past features getting added over the years that we failed to go back and look at because we got comfortable, stuck in our routine? I used that at my last job. It goes back to the training. And then, I think you also have to have something, we're blocking that. And now that we can do that with, tools like something that rhymes with, there's a lot of vendors that are starting to go down this path, right? Zero Trust is another one, right? You can't just add the app. You have to get approval. You have to, state your case. And even with GI, if I want to use a different tool, I have to create a case. I had one the other day. It was using Apple Books. And they're like, well, why can't you just use Adobe Acrobat for the PDF? I go, there's a difference between being able to open a file that's in OneDrive, different devices, and opening a PDF on my laptop and then going and opening it on my iPad and being in the exact same spot that I was previously.
Yeah. But that's the comfort,
But you got to be able
right?
to present the case.
You have to have that conversation, though. You can't be like, you just can't have what you want. You have to have the conversation
Right.
to meet the difference between the two. Because if you meet people a little bit in this area, then when you have to block them in the other, they'll understand that, right? Like,
It's not no, it's
let's talk about it.
Yep.
yeah. It's
Well, I mean,
my answer is not no. What's your business case?
But you know what's nice though is like having some SaaS management products that will stop it from just being willy-nilly, because some people don't want to talk about it because they assume they're gonna hear no, right? So it's like you have to, because internally, never mind the product, but internally at Opic, like it's the same way. Everything is a conversation. Nothing is by default yes unless it's already been pre-approved, right? But I haven't had a no yet. So, and I've asked for a lot. So, I mean, I feel like it's just so that they're aware and the right change management happens, right? And I think that's the key part to keeping any of these things kind of a little more safe. I don't know.
Well, it goes
comes
back to the how do you handle
cyber culture awareness too of the why.
Yeah.
And vendor evaluation, because if you think about it, who is going to be the champion or the owner for that application? If there's data that needs to be backed up, if there's who's responsible for that? Because me going in shadow IT and grabbing an app,
yeah,
not good.
Absolutely. All right, let's go ahead and get to our last story here. Our last story, a little more on the fun, ranty side. Today I learned that some MSPs are still using dark web scans as sales tools. I heard a franchise MSP has contacted them with the line, if your company is appearing on the dark web and hasn't notified you, then what else is your IT provider missing? The link to download the report, accessible after submitting contact information, of course. I replied to the report that shows no major leaks in 2019 other than a Twitter dump in 2020. If you don't have any records on the dark web, are you really in business? Is a dark web scan a legitimate marketing tool?
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Of course it is.
I don't think so.
If your MSP was doing their job, you wouldn't be on the dark web, right?
No, listen. What are we qualifying as a legitimate marketing tool? Because anything that gets a customer to ask a question is legitimate in terms of marketing. Did we say it was valid? Did we say that it was but it is definitely something. They don't understand what it is, so of course they're going to respond to it. It starts a conversation. It is whatever. It is a legitimate marketing tool. Just saying. Now,
I think at this point, though, we're all on the dark web.
Of course we are. Of course we are.
Yeah.
And it's up to us to have that conversation. And if we were doing good cyber hygiene as to what we were talking about, we would be having the conversation. That's not a case of if you're going to get breached and I can protect you from everything. Fair. You will get breached and I will help walk you through it. Like it is all the same conversation, really, when you think about it. I don't know if you planned that, Josh, but like they do follow the same thing. This is legitimate, but like it's the legitimacy that your client places on it all depends on your relationship with them.
I would be curious about, in this question, how are they using it? Because I'd be curious about that, because we saw there was a window of time not so long ago where there were plenty of vendors that were doing and we include the dark web scanner that you can use as a sales tool, right? And suddenly, we started realizing like, hey, I can get this free or I can get this elsewhere. And oh, by the way, we already knew that Twitter and Facebook and Experian and that these already happened. We need to do better. Or you get information back and it doesn't tell you the when, what was compromised. It just says something of your profile has been compromised on this platform. You're like, what was it? My social security number or my birthday? Or what did they get?
Dude, there was a vendor at a show, and I don't even know their name, so like I apologize, but like their booth was crazy. They're wearing like racing suits and stuff. This was a couple years ago, and I was like, all right, your marketing worked. Like you drew me in, like on Byte. What are you guys selling? And it was dark web scans that were thousands of dollars. Their differentiator says that we can find it quicker, but I'm like, there's no way that I am getting anyone to pay thousands of dollars for just a dark web scan. Like that's crazy.
Sure.
I already have 4 other tools that can do it, like you said, for free. But on the other side, yes, it goes back to the training and the cyber awareness. Like, yes, you're on the dark web. Cool. What does it mean? How we can prevent it? Why are you on there in the first place? Are your employees using their business email to sign up for, personal things? And now it's affecting you. Okay, well, like, here's why we shouldn't do that. Going back to the why. Or it's going to happen. Everyone's going to be on there. So what do we do about it? Using different passwords, going through the education part of it. So to Amanda's point, yes, when I pick the stories for the week, I do try to find a theme or a segue. There are intentionally stacked, but this goes back to pretty much everything that we were saying is building that cyber culture. And this is why you can't just say, here's your security training and call it good.
Right.
I mean, you can, but you'd be like farcical. Yeah.
Do you think this is tied to the, I don't want to get into the maturity of MSPs here, but like some of what I'm hearing is we like to sell security or the IT services to our clients, but we don't necessarily like to implement these same product services in our own environment or build out the policies or avoid shadow IT.
We're above it, right? Like the rules don't apply to us. There's a lot of sarcasm.
Right. Yeah, they're a little bit. I heard a little bit Canadian sarcasm.
Yeah, the best kind. Oh no, wait, British sarcasm is better, but
that's fair. That's fair.
My harassment training that I took this morning was actually pretty interesting. The scenario was one where a employee was passed up on a promotion because she was Canadian and therefore wouldn't be able to stand up to conflict, and the clients would be able to walk all over them because they were Canadian. I'm like, I've never seen that as a scenario. And Amanda, you were the first person I thought about.
Yeah, so I feel like my own expression on this current podcast right now should be like a contraindicative of that particular stereotype. But I mean, wait, should I use an American saying to say it? Cash me outside. How about that? Like, I mean.
Yeah. I laughed at the scenario.
I'll see you in the parking lot.
I can say it in French if it makes it more Canadian.
All right. Well, so if you've learned anything today, it is that it all comes down to leading by education, building that brand, building that trust, and there isn't just a tool or template for everything. So let's see. Summed up, you don't even need to go back and rewatch. That's what we all learned. So couple minutes left. Anything that you guys would like to plug for events or anything coming up?
Not in a, like, I'm going to be doing a webinar, but I'll probably have one more time before I'm on here. But I'm also planning my first roadshow, so I'll be stay tuned about that. But I'll have a webinar in the new year in January with Dean about what MSP should be thinking about at the beginning of the year to get ready for 2026.
Exciting. I'll look forward to that.
Can IT is that next week?
I think so. Their roadshow, right?
Yeah, the roadshow. Yeah, it's still in a very cold part of the world. I think it's Canada.
Oh my God. We just established earlier in the pre-call here that we are at the same temperature today, so I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, fair.
Sometimes we get hotter in Texas where I am, so just saying.
It was warmer on Mars than it was in Canada and most of the Dakotas 2 days ago. So
I thought you were going to call it Canada for a second.
No. All right.
So are you suggesting we move to Mars?
Maybe.
Some days, like other events we have going on. AWS reInvent is going on right now in Las Vegas. It's the last day. MSSP Alert Live, December 8th, 10th in National Harbor, Maryland. And, of course, we have IR Games. Our last one of the year is happening in 2 Fridays from now because the last Friday of the month is Christmas, somewhere around Christmas, I think. But in any case, this month marks 24 months straight of providing a free tabletop experience unlike any other. So please come check us out. Thank you guys so much for joining. I love having both of you on. Thank you for putting up with my head cold here. And we will see you for the last episode of MSP Community Live next week. Thank you.
See ya.
Bye, everyone.